Hello friends, welcome to my YouTube channel, and today we are going to discuss very important topic from examination point of view and from everything. It is being asked frequently in the viva, it is being asked frequently in the theory, and the tracts are the most important topic for the nervous system. Now today we are going to discuss about the ascending tracts. Most of the ascending tracts will be covered in this, and it is all about the overview. Other than that, we are going to study the structure of spinal cord, then all the other things in detail. What are the tracts, what are nuclei, what are lamina. So let's begin. Please watch till end for the better understanding. I hope that you will understand it in a better manner with this lecture. Let's begin. So this is the image of cross section of the spinal cord. Okay, so these are the basic areas. Let's begin. This portion, that is known as the posterior part, and this part is known as the anterior part. The posterior part is also known as the dorsal part, and anterior part is also known as the ventral part. So this H-shaped structure, this is forming the H. Okay, so H-shaped structure, it is the gray matter of the spinal cord. Okay, and this outer part entire, it is the white matter of the spinal cord. It is reverse in the brain. The gray matter is on the outer part and the white matter is on the inner part in brain. Here in the spinal cord, gray matter is on the inner part and the white matter is on the outer part. So now gray matter is of the H shape. See, so they are divided into three parts. They are known as the horn. So this one is the posterior gray horn. This one is the anterior gray horn. And in between posterior gray horn and anterior gray horn, there is the lateral gray horn. This entire is known as the lateral white column. It is arranged in the form of the columns. So this entirely is known as the lateral white column. Now what is the function of the posterior gray horn? That is also known as the dorsal horn. Okay, they receive several kind of sensory information from the body, like light touch, proprioception and vibration. We will understand this in detail. Okay, lateral gray horn, that is also present in the thoracic region, and they contains visceral motor neurons. This portion, it consists of the visceral motor neuron. And anterior gray horn, it consists of the alpha motor neuron. So here the functions of the each area is mentioned: somatosensory, visceral sensory, visceral motor, somatic motor. Okay, so now these are the dorsal root and the ventral root. Now in spinal cord, what is the dorsal root and ventral root? Okay, the cluster of neurons, they are known as the ganglion, and they all together form the dorsal root and ventral root. A root which is located in the posterior part is known as the dorsal root. These all are the dorsal, it is also known as the dorsal root ganglion. That is the clusters of neurons. Okay, that's why it is known as the dorsal root ganglion. So these are located in the posterior portion, that is known as the dorsal root ganglion, and the root located in the anterior portion, it is known as the ventral root ganglions. So these ganglions, they are also the kind of what? Group of neurons or cluster of neurons. Now when this dorsal root and this ventral root, they join together, they will form the first order neuron for any of the ascending tracts. That we will study later on in this lecture itself. Okay, up till here I guess it is clear with you. This entire portion is known as the posterior white column, and this entire portion is known as the anterior white column. Okay, now see, this is what? This is anterior median fissure. Fissure, it is a kind of the groove. Okay, groove in which some of the parts remain. So in anterior white fissure, what remains? So in anterior white fissure, it is providing a groove for the anterior spinal artery. Here the anterior spinal artery will reside. Similarly here, the posterior median sulcus. Sulcus is also sulcus and the fissure, they are the one and the same. So sulcus is also a kind of groove. It is about 4 to 6 mm in depth. Okay, this posterior median sulcus, it is about 4 to 6 mm in depth. So I guess it is clear with you that is what is posterior median sulcus. It is again a groove, and here also anterior median sulcus, it is also a groove. Okay, depth in which some of the structures will lie. Now see, this is the posterior gray commissure. Commissure means a portion which connects the two halves of the spinal cord, opposite halves of the spinal cord. This one is on one side and this one is the on other side. So these are the two opposite sides. So anything which connects the two opposite halves, it is known as the commissure. So posterior gray commissure, this is posteriorly located, so it is posterior gray commissure, and it is connecting the two parts, two halves of the spinal cord. So that is posterior gray commissure. As it is located in the posterior portion, that is why it is known as posterior gray commissure. Here anterior gray commissure. Okay, so it is located anteriorly, so it is known as anterior gray commissure. Okay, this is anterior white commissure. Okay, as it is located in the white matter, so that is anterior white commissure. Fine. So up till now I am clear with this understanding of the cross section of the spinal cord. Now, spinal cord's gray matter, it is arranged in which form? So this is the gray matter arrangement. Nuclei, that the clusters of neuron present in the form of nuclei in gray matter of the spinal cord. The clusters of neuron, they are arranged in the form of the nuclei. What is nuclei? That they are nothing but the clusters of neuron, but arranged in a particular pattern in the spinal cord, but where in the gray matter of the spinal cord. So that are the different nuclei. This is substantia gelitonosa, nucleus proprius, dorsal nucleus of Clark, intermediolateral nucleus, lateral motor neuron, medial motor neuron. All these nucleus, they form the second order neuron for the tracts, long tracts, which we are going to study in detail later on. And these are the lamina. So neurons of the gray matter in spinal cord, they are distributed in the form of layers. They are called the lamina. This is the lamina 1, 2, lamina 10. So arrangement in the form of the layers in the gray matter of the spinal cord is known as the lamina, and arrangement in the form of the nuclei, whose arrangement it is? It is the arrangement of cluster of neurons. Okay, fine. And the white matter, it is divided into the various forms of the tracts. Tracts are nothing but the collection of the nerve fibers. They are divided into two major tracts, ascending tracts and the descending tracts. Ascending tracts, they are those which carries the information from sensory information from spinal cord to the brain, and descending tracts, they are the motor pathways which carries the information from brain to the spinal cord or to the target organ. Tracts in spinal cord. Groups of nerve fibers passing through spinal cord are called tracts of spinal cord. They are divided into two groups, short tracts and the long tracts. Short tracts, different parts of the spinal cord are connected itself with the help of short tracts. Short tracts are of two types, intrinsic tracts and the commissural tracts. Intrinsic tracts, they connect adjacent segment of spinal cord on the same side. They will be connecting the adjacent segment of the spinal cord on the same side, while the commissural tracts, they will connect on the opposite side, as I have already shown. Long tracts, they connect the spinal cord with other parts of CNS. They are of two types. Ascending tract carries sensory impulses from the spinal cord to brain. It is carrying the sensory impulses from the spinal cord to brain, and descending tracts carries motor impulses from the brain to the spinal cord. Now, ascending tracts of the spinal cord, it carries impulses of various sensation to brain. Pathway for each sensation is formed by 2 or 3 groups of neuron, which are first order neuron, second order neuron and third order neuron. So first order neuron, they receive the sensory impulses from the receptors. If you have not watched my lecture on the receptor, you can watch that lecture and you will understand the detail about the receptors, and send them to the sensory neurons of the posterior gray horn of the spinal cord through their fibers. Posterior nerve root ganglion is the location where the nerve cell bodies of these neurons are located. First order neuron, they are located in the posterior nerve root ganglion. Second order neuron, they are sensory neuron present in the posterior gray horn. They carry sensory impulses from spinal cord to brain below the subcortical area such as thalamus. Now here the third order neuron. Third order neuron are in the subcortical areas. Fibers of this neuron carries the sensory impulses from subcortical areas to the cerebral cortex. So third order neuron, they will carry up to the cerebral cortex. So here it is. See, this is the first order neuron, the receptors for the pain, cold, warmth. Here this is dorsal root and ventral root, they together form the nerve fiber. They will carry the information. From here, this red one, the second order neuron is starting. Okay, this is the figure of lateral and anterior spinothalamic tract. Okay, so that nucleus are that we will study in detail. Okay, that will carry the information through the medulla, midbrain and up to the thalamus. So up to the thalamus there will be the second order neuron, and from thalamus onwards up to the cerebral cortex the third order neuron will play a role. So these are the order of neuron. Now list of ascending tracts. Anterior white column, anterior spinothalamic tract, the main function is crude touch sensation. Now what is meaning of crude touch sensation? Means with your closed eye you are able to identify, means you are not able to identify the location where you have been touched. And fine touch, if you are touched on your hand, then you will be able to locate, that is the fine touch. Now lateral white column, lateral spinothalamic tract, sensation of pain and temperature you all know. Ventral spinocerebral tract, subconscious kinesthetic sensation. Now what is this subconscious kinesthetic sensation? The sense which help us detect weight, body position or relation between movements in our body parts such as joint, muscles and tendons. They are the senses of awareness. Means whenever you are walking, running, drawing, swimming, so all these things you are doing what? At that time, after walking, running or drawing, you become aware about your muscles, bodies and joint tendons. So that is known as the subconscious kinesthetic sensation. Now dorsal spinocerebellar tract, the main function again it is the subconscious kinesthetic sensation. Spinotactile tract, the main function is spino-visual reflex. What is spino-visual reflex? That is the movement of head in response to visual stimuli. Okay, so that is the spinotactile tract's main function, that is spino-visual reflex. Fasciculus dorsolaterales, pain and temperature is its main function. Spino-reticular tract, consciousness and awareness is its function. And spino-olivary tract, proprioception. Proprioception, it is what? Okay, perception or awareness of the position or the movement of the body, knowing whether the feet are on soft grass or hard cement without looking, that is known as proprioception. Even enabling to touch your finger with your closed eye, to touch your nose with your closed eye, that is a proprioception. Okay, now spino-vestibular tract, the main function is proprioception. Okay, other than that there is a posterior white column, there is a fasciculus gracilis, main function is tactile sensation, tactile localization and tactile discrimination. And fasciculus cuneatus, vibratory sensation, conscious kinesthetic sensation. Now what is this tactile sensation? Okay, tactile sensation, it is a somatic sensation which is arising on the surface of the body. Tactile localization, that is individual's ability to identify, that is the stimulation or touch, pain और प्रेशर एनी इंटेंसिटी उसकी पता चल सकती है. And what is tactile discrimination? If you are touched on more than 2 locations, then you must be able to identify that how many times you have been touched, what was the difference between that 2 or 3 touches. Okay, thank you. I am completing my lecture over here. I guess you have understood much about this, and thank you so much. Please do like, share and subscribe. Okay.